Hi, everybody. It's Elektra Yao, artist, visa lawyer, and entertainment lawyer, offices in New York and in New Jersey. And today I wanted to talk about something that is always on my mind, specifically theater. I'm always thinking about theater. And the other day, I had my husband watch Rent, which is obviously, I think, a really spectacular musical, especially because I'm from New York, and that whole Lower East Side aspect of living in New York City really speaks to me directly because I spent a lot of time there growing up, and I also performed at Theater for the New City downtown in Alphabet City on Avenue A. So I was thinking about theater, and Broadway was supposed to reopen actually in March 2021. There were supposed to be previews of a Neil Simon play, but that's not happening. Um, I don't know if you guys have heard the news or if you're following the news or if you're following Dr. Fauci, but basically, Broadway is slated to open up in May 2021. That's what Playbill.com is saying. That's what Deadline.com is saying. But Fauci just said, or Dr. Fauci just said, that he expects theater to open in September 2021. And I think that it's important to think about those dates and what it means for you if you are a theater performer or if you work in theater or if you're connected to theater as a whole. And I want you guys to think about, or I want to talk about rather, how COVID is impacting and changing theater. So for those of you who work in theater, who are performers, stage managers, directors, lighting designers, whatever you are going to be impacted by this because Broadway kind of is the threshold. It kind of like dictates everything that happens on off Broadway, off Broadway, experimental theater, all different types of theater. So those dates are going to have an impact in whatever form of theater you work in, whether it's Broadway or not. So if we're going to follow, the dates on Playbill.com, we're looking at like a May 2021 opening. Obviously, Broadway's going to want to protect its patrons, especially because 65% of Broadway theater patrons are actually tourists. So if there's no actual travel coming into the city, coming into New York, that means that the type of theater that's going to be produced, let's say it does open May 2021, will be theater that is geared more towards residents, right? New Yorkers, people who live in the tri-state area. Because again, 65% of Broadway supporters or patrons are out of state, or not out of state, sorry, but tourists. I don't know what percentage of that is like international tourists and national tourists, but 65% of those people are tourists. And we know that tourists really like to see those Broadway shows that are historically common to Broadway. Think about the Phantom of the Opera, The Lion King. These are the shows that they want to see. So we have a comment from Alex Ortez. ¿Hablas español? Sí, yo hablo español, francés, italiano y inglés. Pero estoy haciendo esto live en inglés porque estoy hablando de teatro. So as I was saying, so we're looking at May 2021. We're looking at a possible, September 2021, and we need to really think about how COVID is going to continue to impact theater, especially or specifically people who are going through the O1 visa process. So I'm already starting to see changes. All of my clients who are members of the theater industry, those contracts are being drafted to take into consideration remote performing or possible remote performing. So when you're a theater actor, and let me tell you about something that actually just happened to me for a theater performer. She's a theater performer and director. If you are performing traditional theater, right? Pre-COVID, you were on stage, you were acting on stage, no real recording of that production. Or if there was a recording, it was incidental to acting or performing live. With Zoom and with Skype and with FaceTime and with streaming, with all these other creative means of performing theater to accommodate for COVID, you have to record, right? You've got to stream just like I'm streaming now. So client is a theater performer, and in particular also a cabaret performer. Now, if you are a cabaret performer, you know that you're going to AGVA, the Academy or the American Guild of Variety Artists. So client has a cabaret contract. She's going to be performing cabaret or in a cabaret style setting. And because the location wants to accommodate for COVID, there is a clause in that contract that we included, which states that she will need to perform via Zoom or via streaming. Now, AGVA was not willing to issue an advisory opinion to this client because even though she is performing cabaret and they cover variety acts, because she would be doing it on Zoom, they decided that they didn't have jurisdiction over this performance. So the heart of this performance is a cabaret. It's a cabaret performance, but she's going to be doing it via Zoom, and because it was recorded, or it's going to be recorded, they will not be governing. So these are just small changes that we're seeing in O1 petitions and how the unions are being how contracts are being affected by COVID, number one, and how the unions are acting and reacting to those contracts and deciding whether or not they govern those performances via Zoom or via streaming. So I anticipate beyond the changes that are going to occur with the labor unions, I anticipate a massive shift in the theater industry in the sense that I think that the type of theater that's going to be produced and performed right now, specifically on Broadway, is theater that is going to cater more to non-tourists. So people who are interested in different types of theater, maybe not those famous theatrical musical theater performances or musical theater shows that, we're accustomed to seeing and that we all love seeing, but maybe, highlighting more local playwrights, local theater players, making it more regional and local and not so flashy, which is what a lot of tourists want to see. And a lot of us want to see too. There's nothing wrong with that type of musical theater. We all really love it. But like I said, 65% of those viewers are tourists. So I think that it's really interesting food for thought, especially if you are a performer or a creator. I also think that there's going to be a lot of synergy between SAG-AFTRA and equity. So what does that mean for you? Like if you are trying to get your equity card, and equity is really difficult for international performers. I mean, they will not give it to you. There are very specific situations where international performer can get their equity card. It's not impossible, but it is really, really hard to do. But there's going to be more synergy and more discussion between SAG-AFTRA and equity, and that's going to have an impact on the types of productions you can audition for and the types of productions that are going to be produced. So again, if these shows are going to open, in late 2021, so in the fall or the winter, when are rehearsals going to start? When are auditions going to start? How are auditions going to be conducted? I mean, this is just Fauci's prediction of, fall 2021, but that doesn't mean that, for example, Broadway as an institution is not going to want to take more preventative measures and open maybe in 2022. I don't know. I mean, we don't know. Everything really kind of depends on how quickly people located in the US are going to get the vaccine. And if we're going to get herd immunity based on people getting the vaccines, international performers, what your countries are looking like, if you're coming from out of the country, so you're doing a consular processing instead of a change of status, what it's looking like for you in your country, how the consulates are going to operate. I mean, there was a lot of, the consulates are not operating normally now. I'm sure everyone knows that. There have been whispers about consulates getting back to normal, at least for O1 visa stamping in March 2021. That's what we're kind of hearing. But I'm going to do a video on this maybe tomorrow or the day after to kind of talk about visa stamping and what does visa stamping mean for O1B seekers in the time of COVID, because it's constantly evolving, but it's also kind of a standstill where people are kind of stuck at home and there's nothing that they are able to do, at least from people that have been reaching out to me. So again, I think it's really, really interesting, the transformation of Broadway. And I wonder if we're going to start to consume theater via film, via streaming. Is that how theater is going to be consumed? And if theater is going to continue to be consumed in that regard, is it still theater? Or is it just a recorded live production? And there are differences. There's a difference between a live production that's recorded, right? What we saw with Hamilton and The Lion King, which did very, very well with these recorded productions. And there's a difference between, actually being in the audience and performing to a live audience. For all you theater people out there, you theater heads, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That sort of adrenaline and synergy that you get from the crowd and that you get from your cast members. But that's not happening right now. And as much as the industry is accommodating and being very creative with Zoom and with streaming, there is something that is potentially being lost artistically and creatively with these live streams. And if the industry is going to continue to be shut down, of course, for the protection of the patrons, for the performers, for all of the players, if consuming theater through streaming is going to continue to be the norm, are we still engaging in theater? I think this is a really interesting question, especially in light of international performers who I think come to the US or come to New York specifically because of the renown of the industry, because of the opportunity to network and to get mentorship with other professional performers. And if that's not really happening in the industry, what is there a reason to continue to perform on these platforms, or are we going to see a development in international theater in other countries where maybe theater is not so developed, in countries where maybe the COVID numbers are really, really low? I don't know. I think that this is a really important time to be on the lookout for emerging playwrights and emerging actors and see how they fit in with the Broadway or the New York theater mold. Um, so those are my thoughts. So again, when is Broadway going to be reopening? So if you go on playbill.com, if you go on deadline.com, you'll see that they have slated an opening for May 2021. Dr. Fauci has slated for an opening to start in late fall, so late 2021. So we're looking at September, October, November 2021. Do we know when performances are actually going to happen? I don't know. We're really this is the last week of 2020. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen in the future in terms of the early winter, in terms of January, February, March, if venues are starting to prep for traditional performances. It is a very scary time right now. So I think that all venues and all playwrights and producers and directors are really looking to, again, protect everybody, but also you want to see the evolution of theater. Again, my question is, if you are consuming theater via streaming, is it still theater? So again, if you have any thoughts, please feel free to comment on the video, to share and subscribe to my YouTube channel, to like this video and to share this video, because I think that these are really interesting and more important conversations to have, especially in the light of international performers and performers in general. I mean, if you are a traditional theater performer and whether you're performing musical theater or Shakespearean drama, or Black theater, for example, it's important for you to understand the evolution of the industry. And I'm not saying that it's a bad evolution. I'm just saying that the industry is evolving to accommodate COVID and what's going to happen to theater and what's going to happen to you as an international performer. Again, I'm telling you about changes that we're seeing. AGVA is not willing to issue an advisory opinion for a cabaret performer or a performer that is going to be performing in a cabaret solely due to the fact that it is going to be streaming. So again, interesting food for thought, and please like and share this video. Please make comments so we can continue this conversation. If you're watching this through YouTube, please hit the subscribe button so you can find out more about immigration information, artist visa information. And if you're watching on YouTube, please download my free artist toolkit so you can jumpstart your career to be a performer in the US. Thank you everybody for watching. I know that it was a little bit late, but again, this is food for thought. So have a great night, everybody. And it's the last couple of days of 2020. So I will always advise everyone to create your marketing plan so you can hit the ground running in January 2021, regardless of what the changes will be occurring in the theater industry, whether theater is going to start to be performed traditionally back on the live stage, or whether or not we're going to continue to see theater being streamed. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.